Years ago, one of my mentors made the distinction between simply preaching and actually ministering to people. He told me people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. When I became a full time youth and family minister, I realized how inadequately prepared I was for dealing with the complex challenges facing youth, parents, and families. I honestly cared, but I was not competent. Today's ministers can become better equipped to meet this challenge through the Master of Arts in Family Life Ministry offered by Faulkner University. This program integrates prevention oriented strategies as well as intervention strategies within a church setting, focusing on counseling skills. All these courses may be completed online from the convenience of your home or workplace and at a time that is convenient to the schedule of the student. There is a 50% discount for the members of the Church of Christ. Now, although this program is not designed to fulfill any requirements toward becoming a licensed counselor, it is designed to thoroughly equip the minister by providing courses including but not limited to the skills required for counseling couples, families in crisis, as well as dealing with family dynamics, human intimacy, sexuality, parent and character education, as well as church assessments. If you're interested in more information, contact faulkner.edu/KGST. That is faulkner.edu/KGST. KGST stands for Curley Graduate School of Theology. You can also contact graduate enrollment at faulkner.edu with any questions or to explore the eligibility requirements for the tuition discount. Graduate enrollment at faulkner.edu. Faulkner University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. TKM Incorporated in Moss, Tennessee is a construction company that specializes in erosion control, seeding, and soil, hydroseeding, hydromulch, minor excavation, and silt fence. They also provide traffic control and construction signs. Their business is keeping people safe, but their passion, their mission, is they wish that all men could be saved. TKM has adopted the nickname the King's Men because as they serve you, they also serve the King. If they could provide any of their services for you, please contact them at 931-243-3958. That is 931-243-3958. Or you can contact them on the net at tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. That is tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. TKM Incorporated is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. I don't consider myself a tough individual. Now, neither do I consider myself a complete softy. I don't do manual labor on a daily basis or even a weekly basis, but I have. Building and maintaining ropes courses involves some pretty physical stuff. And you think about, climbing trees and stretching cable and installing platforms. Anything that you do is exacerbated if you do it while hanging in the air from a positional harness or while trying to balance on a cable. Cable is heavy. And when you pull it and you're trying to install it, you're pulling up and out and you're fighting gravity on two planes. I've thrown some hay bales. My very first job was delivering shingles for a roofing company, and I climbed up a ladder. Actually, I climbed up two ladders that were tied together by a ski rope. OSHA never saw that. I've trimmed limbs off trees for a pulpwooder. I've cleaned brush with a machete and a halberd. I've hunted in the wilderness. I've backpacked. I've climbed. I've camped. My workout routine is not impressive, but neither is it passive. When talking to some people, one night I was with Dr. David Huff, and we were talking about SWAT training, and Huff told this guy, he said, Lonnie hides in places that would make the dirty jobs guy throw up. I've had emergency surgery twice and basically got myself to care on my own. I was driven by a guy, but I walked out of the woods on my own power. I'm not tough. I'm not a tough guy. I'm not a tough blue-collar special forces level mountain man. but neither am I a silk swaddled messenger boy, to quote the favorite Viking movie of mine. I'm comfortable, if not competent, in my own skin. And I'm okay with my level of toughness, as relative as that term might be, since I'm not qualified to be, a special forces guy or a cage fighter or anything like that. But I'm okay with the things that I've done and my level of competency, and I don't have any doubts or regrets about my manliness. So imagine me sitting and having a discussion with two gentlemen. One is named Marty and the other one is named Marvin. Their last names is Nolan. And we're in casual conversation. And I mean that. We're just talking. We're not telling war stories. We're not regaling each other with deeds of daring do. We're just talking. And as part of the normal conversation, Marvin describes drowning a rattlesnake that he caught by lassoing it with one of his bootlaces. Now you got to understand, Mr. Marvin is an octogenarian. He has this piece of property that's actually inside the boundaries of the land between the lakes. And one day he was out there pushing trees over with his bulldozer, and a bunch of Boy Scouts came through. And of course, you're in the middle of what you think is the land between the lakes sanctuary, and there's this dude shoving trees down with a bulldozer. Well, they called the feds in on him, and before you know it, down his little gravel dirt road comes the black SUVs. And he pulls out a plat map and shows them the topographical map and says, "This is my property, and this is where you're standing." And and as far as I know, he's the only guy that's ever been apologized to by the federal government. But that's Mr. Marvin. And his family was displaced at least twice. Had to move off their farm when they built the land between the lakes, and they built the dam in that area. So I like to say the war is not over in Dover. But anyway, we're sitting here talking, and I think we were talking about how pretty certain things are. And he says, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen is a rattlesnake. And I've got this big rattlesnake that I drowned after I caught it on my bootlace. And it was just like that. It wasn't bragging. It wasn't, let me tell you about this. It was just like I would be talking about, hey, I put new tires on my truck. And so we're talking, he caught this snake. He took his bootlace and affixed it to a stick, lassoed this snake, threw it in the back of a dump truck, drove home, then had to climb up and get in the back of the dump truck with the snake and recatch it before he drowned it. Why would you drown a rattlesnake? I mean, I was incredulous. I was like, why in the world would somebody drown a rattlesnake? To which he just calmly replied, as if he were explaining 2 + 2 to a child, well, you don't want to mess up the hide. And then Marty adds, well, it's kind of like when you drown a bobcat. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm sorry. I don't have a reference for that. What did you just say? And Marty was like, it's like when you drown a bobcat. Well, I've never put my hands on a live bobcat. I've never wrestled a bobcat, and I've never even thought in the darkest part of my mind, you know what, this would be a great way to earn a Wile E. Coyote patch and see if I can drown a bobcat. Well, apparently, one simply holds the bobcat by the throat, and just think about that. The head of the bobcat is one of the 5 danger zones on the bobcat. You have the head that contains fangs and teeth, and as my dad calls them, tushuses. He's got these big fangs, and then the 4 paws have razor sharp claws on them. But you hold the cat by the throat, and while holding said cat by the throat, you stick him underwater. And then while the cat is submerged, you put your foot on his chest. And as you push down on his chest, you open up his throat. And according to Mr. Marty, the air rushes out and the water rushes in. And you get the picture. Okay, I've got the address in Dover, Tennessee. If you too would care to mail your man card there and let them add it to the mulch pile in the Nolan family farm. But I had to turn my man card in. I had no idea that there was this level of dude out there in the world. And these 2 gentlemen, they don't swagger around. They're not boastful. They're humble. They're polite. They're devoted husbands and fathers, and they're absolutely wrapped around the fingers of their daughters and their wives. Marty's wife is this tiny little beautiful lady. She's soft spoken and petite, and Marty calls her the warden. He'll be talking about getting to go do something. He said, "Well, I'll have to clear that with the warden." He, he's a guy, and just like the rest of us, he's living his life under the radar and just trying to to avoid the displeasure of the warden. It's not like they're part of an outlaw biker gang or a bunch of survivalists. They're just guys living out ordinary lives. But there's an extra bit of their lives that to them is ordinary, and to somebody looking from the outside is extraordinary. And the extraordinary has become their ordinary. My best friend and climbing partner is Troy Farmer. He's another example of this. We've climbed together for probably 20 plus years, and our abilities are pretty close to the same thing. I've probably got an edge on him in strength. He's a lean guy, and depending on, when you catch him in his workout routine, he'd go between 135 and 145 pounds. I'm a solid 175 with some fluff around the edges that puts me closer to about 180. He came over, and he'll do anything I ask him to do, but he came over and helped me finish a couple of videos that I had. I was doing this video tutorial series from Brandon McGathrin, the 10th Planet Black Belt. He had these courses that he put out on the internet. And as you studied these courses, whether it was the truck or whether it was the Anaconda series, you had to get 200 reps in a month. So I was frantically trying to find people to drill with. And so Troy would come over and sort of pseudo grapple with me. He would let me get these reps in. Now, Troy has no interest in grappling whatsoever. He carries more weapons than Josie Wells. But he would come over and let me throw him around and put him in weird positions on my wrestling mat. And while we were wrestling, he always complained about my grip, about the strength of my grip. He still brings it up. We'll be sitting around talking, and he'll say, "Yeah, Lonnie's grip is brutal. Lonnie's grip is mean. He's got a mean grip." He still makes references to it. Yet when we work out for a climb, when we get prepared to go do something in the mountains, he can do 2-finger pull-ups, and I cannot. I've got this Matolia simulator, this fingerboard in my garage, and we do some hangs on it. We do some dead hangs, and we do some pull-ups. And Troy can do 2-finger pull-ups, and I can't. And with all respect to my friend, I'm stronger than he is. I may be twice as strong as he is, but I can't do 2-finger pull-ups. But as part of his ordinary life, he used to ride an R1 sport bike. He rode it to save gas. He rode it every day to work. He rode it to Washington. Yeah, he's even done the Dragon's Tail, that multiple turn thing up in Tennessee. He's done the Dragon's Tail on a sport bike. I wonder how many times in a day, how many times in a week, or how many times in his lifetime has he used the first 2 fingers on either hand to engage the brake or the clutch on that sport bike. You see that thing he does on a regular basis, that thing he does ordinary, built up to make him able to do something that is extraordinary. Years and years ago, I got to go hunting with a guy named Bobby Brooks. Bobby Brooks took me hunting. Bobby's real close to my height. He's not super tall, he's not super short, but he's real close to my height. And at that time, when we went on this hunting trip, I was running 3.5 miles 3 times a week. I was probably doing an hour, maybe 2 hours of jujitsu. My cardio was off the chain. Well, we get out of this truck in the early part of the morning, and it's not yet daylight, and we take off walking in the woods, and we're going uphill, and I'm having a jog to keep up with this guy. This is the origin of my famous line that I've used in other contexts, but as we're walking and I'm, trying to catch my breath and blowing steam out and feeling like I'm about to have a heart attack, I say, "Hey, what time are we meeting that guy?" And Bobby says, "We're not meeting anybody else." I said, "Then we're not late. Slow down." But here's a guy close to my height who's not a runner. He doesn't work out, and he's walking my little short legs off. You know why? Well, in his 40 hours a week, plus in those days, he delivered packages for UPS. He spent every day of the week walking back and forth at an extraordinary pace because he worked for UPS. His ordinary life created an extraordinary pace. The ordinary pursuit of the samurai was a code called Bushido. And these guys that were these legendary warriors, they made it part of their everyday, not just in combat, but at home, if they were meditating, if they were gardening, if they were walking, if they were writing poetry. Their ordinary life was to be courageous, to be honest, to be just, to be righteous, to have integrity, to be loyal, and to be honorable. Now, the list varies depending on the translation that you're using, but when you read it, the legendary samurai were men who, according to this legend, lived that way all the time. They were tranquil, even in battle in the face of danger. And because they lived this code daily, then the manifestation of these extraordinary traits and even the extraordinary feats that are, attributed to the samurai, they weren't reserved for special occasions. They weren't reserved for heroic events. That's just how they lived their lives. And there's echoes of the Bushido code in corporate America. Go into Mazda, Toyota, and look at the people who still take these things and try to elevate them as a standard for behavior or a standard of quality. But for the samurai, the extraordinary became ordinary. For the samurai, the extraordinary became ordinary. I want my life to be ordinary. Ordinarily, every day, no matter special occasions, just every ordinary day, I want to ordinarily be polite and courteous and caring and diligent and conscientious and serving and humble and kind and resolute and honest and brave. I want to be this way not just in my circle, not just with my friends or my family, but in all of my pursuits. I want these kind of qualities. And biblically speaking, it would be love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Those are the normal, everyday, ordinary traits of a person who's trying to be spiritual. They're the everyday, ordinary traits of a person who is trying to live a certain kind of life. I want to live in such a way that these good qualities just become my norm. I want these good qualities to be my ordinary. But my goal is for my ordinary to be extra. And then my life will hopefully be extraordinary. Using the tool of shortwave radio, World Christian Broadcasting literally covers the world every day with the gospel. They use 2 large curtain antennas. One is located in Anchor Point, Alaska, and the other in Madagascar. They send out messages that are recorded at their international home in Franklin, Tennessee. They make available 40 hours of broadcast every day. The broadcasts are made in English, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, English for Africa, and Arabic. They would love for your group to visit them. You can bring your ladies group, your youth group, or your men's group. Just give them a call at 615-371-8707, 615-371-8707, or you can go to 3 W's and a dot, worldchristian.org, find the Donate Here button, and make a financial contribution to support this work that literally covers the world every day with the gospel. World Christian Broadcasting, in cooperation with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. I am your host, Lonnie Jones. My wife Jackie and I moved to the city of Huntsville in 1986 for me to be a youth and family minister. I have been a minister since 1980. I have served in this community as a police chaplain assigned to a SWAT team since 1992, and I've been in private practice as a licensed professional counselor since 1998. I'm also an adventure educator and an avid outdoorsman. I dabble in rock climbing, and I goof around with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Our life has been full of many wonderful experiences, and some just outright adventures. I used to write about those things in a little church bulletin article, so now instead of asking you to read those things, we're just going to talk about them in our podcast. And as we talk about them, we're going to talk about the facts. The facts lead to concepts, and the concepts lead to application. One caveat about the facts is, for the most part, we're going to tell you the facts just as they happened. But every now and then, we're going to tell you the way other people have told us they remember it happening, with a little bit of embellishment. It's all good, clean fun and for educational purposes. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy Keeping Up with Jones.